singing that song since real early this morning, thinking about it. I don't know how many of you knew my Aunt Marilee Keller, but she sat over there about where John and Lisa were sitting, and I'd come in the morning and I was just gonna be messing around playing it, you know, and she'd just get up and just get clapping her hand and just get happy in the Lord, and she really, really loved that song. Our pastor, are they still down south?
I think they're home now.
Oh, they did make it?
We don't know. We don't know.
Well, the truck broke down in Cumberland Gap, you said,
Yes.
and you got a hold of me, and
Oh, you made it here?
I don't know, it's still debating, and, yeah, so, they kept sending me all these pictures of Kentucky and Tennessee, and like, man, sure would like it, and I said, you get home. I told him that he needed to hurry up as our pastor get home to
Did he
his,
go around and take all those pictures?
huh?
Did he go around and take all those?
Oh, him and Miss Heather, oh yeah, they were wearing their camera phone out. But I told him he needed to hurry up and get home to his dedicated flock, so. Some glad morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away
In the road,
to a home on Calvary's shore. I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. Hallelujah, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadow of the light that grows, I'll fly away. My comfort from prison bars and home, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away, oh glory. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more dear days and then I'll fly away to a land where God never ends. I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away, oh glory. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Amen. Had a rescue call last night. A man had been walking for 2 days, hadn't had a bite to eat, nothing to drink, and just didn't know what else to do, so he just laid down on Monroe Street, opened the car, and run him over. Never seen a time like it in my life that people just have no hope. Had a mental patient last night, left her house and 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, just walked right in on these people's homes. Please, it's a wonder they didn't shoot her. That scared me to death. I mean, I don't want to shoot nobody, but you think about that. There, you're in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody come bursting into your house. All you can see and I don't think she'd have done her no harm, but you don't know that. You don't know, and with all the things going on and stuff, but yeah, our country and our land, we really need God to help us. We need prayer. I will meet you in the morning, just inside the eastern gate. Then be ready, faithful pilgrim, left with him and me to lay. Oh, I'm coming in the morning, so you'll not have on the way, and I will meet you. I will meet you just inside the eastern gate over there. I will meet you. I will meet you. I will meet you in the morning over there. Your lamps all trimmed and burning, for the bridegroom watch and wait. He'll be with us at that meeting, just inside the eastern gate, and I will meet you. I will meet you just inside the eastern gate over there. I will meet you. I will meet you. I will meet you in the morning over there. The joy of that meeting, with the saints who for us prayed. What a blessed happy meeting, just inside the eastern gate, and I will meet you. I will meet you just inside the eastern gate over there. I will meet you. I will meet you in the morning over there. Good friend of mine, Jim DeVries, passed away. I don't know if any of you that went to community college, he was a teacher there for a long time, and just a real good friend of mine, and Christian, and said he was ready to go, and talked a lot about the Lord and how that God was good to him, and I think the funeral's tomorrow, and I was thinking about it today, that he stepped into eternity, he had his reward, and I'm thankful today and glad to know that he said that he was ready to go. I have heard of a land on the faraway strand, is a beautiful home of the soul, built by Jesus on high, there he never shall die, is a land where Johnson, you got something for us this morning?
All right, we'll try. Well, it's good to see each person. We miss those that are not here. We really was expecting Stevie to be back today, but he hasn't been. Dave says he got stranded at Cumberland Gap. Truck broke down. I guess it's better there than Cincinnati. I don't know. And but we're glad you're here.
Yeah.
I was thinking about last night. I read the lesson, or rest of the 20th chapter of Exodus. Started reading the 21st chapter, and I was thinking how glad I am I live in the grace plan, not under the law.
Yeah.
They have some rules and regulations that's kind of shocking. But if you look at what the rest of the world was doing, God's rules was like a gravy train of what was going on in the rest of the world. In the Exodus chapter 20, verse 22, now the Lord had just laid out 10 commandments for the people that he wanted them to follow. So now he delivered them out of Egypt. He worked all these miracles, wonders, and signs, and he took them out and he started them on their journey. Now he says, I've done all this for you. Now this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to keep these 10 commandments. And I do believe if you really sat down and wanted to make a study of it, any sin you can find in the New Testament, you can trace it back to where you would find it would violate one of the 10 commandments. But Jesus, when asked about the commandments, he made a wonderful statement in Matthew 20, chapter 22. When the lawyer asked him about the commandments, he said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, and strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. That's the answer to it all. And when you really think about it, if you love your neighbor as yourself, all the problems we have with each other will go away.
Yeah.
And if we love the Lord thy God with all our heart, our soul, our mind, our strength, then all our religious problems will go away. Unfortunately, many times we have a problem with being like the Pharisees was. They come to the Lord and his disciples was gathered corn, I think he's called it, but actually their corn would have been wheat. And they said, why do your disciples eat corn without washing their hands and violate your traditions of our elders? He says, why do you, by your tradition, violate the commandment of God? Now, I'm not giving you exact word quote, but this is what it says. Why do you, by tradition, break the commandment of God? For God said, honor thy father and mother. But you say, if I'll tell my father or my mother, I want to give this money to the temple, that would be the interpretation of it, and they don't honor them, you're free. Then he warned them, he said, in vain do people worship. Teaching for commandments, for teaching commandments of men. Now, this is important that you and I base our life on the truth.
Yeah.
Not just traditions. If you will go to this Baptist church, to that Baptist church, to that Pentecostal church, to that Nazarene church, to that Methodist church, and then go to another one of each one of those denominations, you're going to get all kinds of different traditions. But the Bible still reads the same. So it's important for me and you to know something for ourselves. We need to know where we stand with God. Not on the rules of the church, but by what we possess in our heart. We need to know where we're at. Now, so here, God goes a little farther and he begins to give instruction about, nah, this you're not to do. Then he talks to them about building their place of worship. And the Lord said unto Moses, verse 22, thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, you have seen that I've talked to you from heaven. Now you remember when he began to talk from heaven? The people withdrew and told Moses that you go talk to God, and then you come back and talk to us. We're afraid to go in his presence. We want to put you between him and us. Well, he said, they didn't want, but they was going to have a problem. It's a problem that affects the church down through the ages. You shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall you make unto you gods of gold. Now, I try to be truthful, yet I try not to step on no toes, but keep a clear conscience myself. It's important how you worship. Now, the Bible lays out praying to God in the name of Jesus. As far as I know, that's the only way we're told to pray. Now, the church, however, changed the rules. Slowly but surely, they began to go out and look at the paganism. Say, well, you know, we could be a little bit more like him. If we kind of smooth the hard points over, we could get along better. Along about 200 AD, that might be all 50 years, 100 years after, I think, 3rd century, a bishop of the church decided that when you brought the heathen and converted them into the church, it would make them much easier on the heathen if we allowed them to keep their heathen holidays. The church gradually adapted his ideal. So they created the Christian holidays. The Bible didn't. The Catholic Church gave us Christmas, Easter, and Easter. Now, they said this was for this purpose, but now they created. But also, the heathens had a practice, they had multiple gods and goddesses go over. And they had a god for this purpose, and a goddess for this purpose, and a god for that purpose, and they had, you know, if you had this problem, you go sing this god. The Catholic Church adapted that principle and changed the God's name to saints. Then you got a saint for this purpose. And I remember reading a Baptist preacher writing about it. He was very opposed to these ideals, all these statues and things. And he said it was amazing at the number of people that had been injured by statues of St. Christopher on the dashboard of their car. Well, they had an accident and they slammed into the statue. But the statue was put there supposedly as a protection for the traveler on the road. Well, I can understand his thought line where he's going with that, because that statue has no value.
Amen.
He can't hear you, he can't see you, he can't talk to you, he can't do nothing. It is nothing. But if I worship it, it is idolatry. And if I pray, now I'm going to come right on kiss. I loved my wife. As far as I'm concerned, she's one of the greatest Christian women in the state of Michigan. Now, another husband might say, now wait a minute, oh, it's my wife. But that's it. My wife and I were extremely close. She was a wonderful singer. But if you had asked me, Brother Johnson, is it okay if we put a picture of Sister Janice up in the church? You know what I'd tell you? No. Why? Because my great-grandchildren would have a problem not praying to that picture. See, right now, you know, that was Janice. What a great woman she was. what a great woman she was. This is what happened to the church when they adapted into the church the statues and things. They become likenesses. They begin to pray to them rather than pray to God. God said, don't put no image of gold up for me. In the book of St. John, in the 4th chapter, the Samaritan woman asked Jesus a question. Now, Samaria was a small place, and Judea was a small place. As far as I know, Judea was not as big as 1/4 as the state of Michigan. It's a big place. So this woman said, where is it proper to worship? Up in Samaria, where our fathers built a place of worship, or should we go down to Jerusalem where the Jews have a place of worship? And Jesus said something so important for me and you. The time comes, and now he has them that worship God, must worship in spirit and in truth. Neither here, neither in Samaria. It has no more value to be standing on the street corner of Jerusalem than it has right here.
Amen.
Because God is God, and his presence is everywhere. And you worship God in spirit and in truth. The locality does not improve you, neither does it hurt you. We should gather together to worship God, but there's no salvation in being in the city of Monroe, or Detroit, or Jerusalem, or Samaria. Salvation is in God. Now then, you shall not make unto me any gods of silver, neither shall you make unto you gods of gold. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon my burnt offerings, thy peace offerings, thy sheep, thine oxen, in all places where I have recorded my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. Whether there's two or three gathered together in my name, what will happen?
You'd be in the midst.
Sorry, boys, you ain't in Jerusalem, don't do you no good. No, that's not what the Lord said. He said, if there's two or three gathered together in my name, I'll be in your midst.
Yep, amen.
He'll hear you up at the fire station.
Sure does.
Believe it or not,
Yes, he does.
he'll hear you up on the border. God is God. God is not limited to location. And so, wherever. But now I want you to build an altar of earth. Now I want you to pay attention to how it's built. See, what is the big thing in the world? One time I went to Europe. Oh, you must see Notre Dame Cathedral. Such a magnificent building. Well, this is a dangerous thing. When you put your pride into the building, you leave God out of the picture. I like the church to be comfortable. I like it to be warm in the winter, cool in the summer. I like for the seats to be comfortable to sit on. I think it's good that but we must always remember, we don't worship this building, we worship God. And if we talk about the great glory of our Christianity, it's what God done for us. Yeah. It's what God done last week for Dave, or for Terry, or Matthew, or John. This is where the glory is, what God done for us, not how pretty a building we built. When we get into that, we get into image worship. Now then, and if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewed stone. Ooh. You don't hew the stone. You don't build such a thing. You know what? God didn't want us to worship the altar. He wanted to worship Him.
Yep.
You don't build an altar out of, you don't go fix this fancy altar up out and you hew the stone and everything out. You just build it of dirt. Now then, neither shall I go by steps unto thine altar, that the nakedness be not discovered. Now, God has always taught decency and dress. When Adam and Eve were in the garden, they ate of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. And the first thing they realized when their eyes were opened was they were naked. Nature itself taught them to be embarrassed. It was just a man and his wife. They made themselves aprons, evidently of leaves from the trees. And God come on the scene, and their clothes were not sufficient. For whatever the reason, He made them other clothing to cover their bodies. In the second chapter of 1 Timothy, it tells to dress modest apparel. The word modest carries the meaning of being decent, not being prideful, and unpretentious. I think a sister's making a terrible mistake when you look at her and you see she's 75 years old and got pretty good sized great grandchildren, and she tries to look 20. She ain't fooling nobody but herself.
I look 20.
We should be ourselves. Now, we build an altar. Now, if you'll think, I was down Mark's house, and he's wanting me to watch some type of documentary, and these places down in Central America, the Mayan Indians or somebody, they built this temple, you know, up on highway, they go up there and worship. You see, the pagans had a way of building their temples high, but that doesn't make you close to God. They talk about the similarity of this as it crosses back into the Middle East of the temples there they made there. You know, when they built the Temple of Babel, God confounded their tongues. Evidently, they built a high place. They said, we'll go up and along with the gods. But they built them a high place to worship. And this practice is followed amongst the pagans. It don't matter. I don't know. You ain't got a basement here. You ain't got a high foundation. But that don't mean nothing. What means something is, what do you have in your heart? People have a tendency to get caught up in things. They worship this thing. Boy, did you see our church? Well, it's nice if God blessed you with a good church.
Amen.
But how many people got saved last week? That's what we need to hear.
Yeah.
Who did God heal? Which person was brokenhearted when they come in that God blessed them? That's what the victory is. Anybody can build a pretty church. The biggest bunch of hypocrites in the United States can build a beautiful building. But what we need, the real church, is the spiritual church, the body of Christ, of which we are a member. We are the temple of God. Now, I don't like to, a lot of things I say I know folks are sensitive about, but many of our people are still looking for the Jews. They are the children of God, and they go to rebuild the temple. We're the temple. God built the Christian church. It is the temple of God. And I say, if you disagree with me, God bless you, ain't we going to fight? I say, why in the world does God need two temples? He has one spread all over the world, and that's the Christian church. Now then, we get into the 21st chapter. These are the judgments thou shalt set before them. Now he begins to lay out rules and regulations, and sometimes they're kind of confusing to me. But one thing that you can look at if you really go through it, and everything he laid out, there is a responsibility for you, whatever the circumstances are, to do right. You've got a responsibility to treat the other man right. Remember the two commandments the Lord told, thou shalt love the Lord thy God thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. If we keep those two commandments, we'll find that we got the answer to all domestic issues, all interaction with other people. What causes problems is people don't follow what the Lord said do. Now here he said, you know, if thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and on the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Now, I know people teach that in the Old Testament everything's types and shadows, but sometimes I miss the point. If they bought a Hebrew servant, slavery was very predominant, but they was to give him, you could only keep him for 6 years. Now they had a practice, you know, when God took the Israelites and he divided the land into 12 tribes, and there's a catch there that I never hear people mention about. Originally there was 12 tribes. And we talk about the 12 tribes. But when Jacob told Joseph to call his 2 sons in, Ephraim and Manasseh, he blessed them as his own sons. So we have the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, which were not, they were Jacob's grandsons. This makes 13 tribes. When they went into Israel, God divided the land up into 12 portions, gave unto these 12 tribes their portion. There had been out one tribe, the tribe of Levi, received no inheritance. Their inheritance was God. They were assigned taking care of the temple. They were assigned taking care of the religious affairs. From them was taking the priesthood. This alone required a changement in the covenant, because Jesus could not have been a high priest under the law, because he was not from the tribe of Levi. He was from the tribe of Judah. So under the law, there had to be a change in the covenants for Jesus to be the high priest. So, here they are. Levi received no inheritance. Levi's inheritance was the tithes of the other people. You may disagree with me. If you do, God bless you. I don't believe the New Testament Christian is commanded to give 10% of his money to the local church. I do believe if you want a church, you're going to have to pay for it. But I don't believe that I can say, okay, Dave, you made $1,000 this week, you made $2,000, you owe the church $200. I know a good holiness brother, a preacher, as far as I'm concerned, a fine man, lives down in Indiana close to Cincinnati. He was telling me about this brother. He had him a church, and he was teaching the people, you pay me your tithes. So every Sunday morning they was giving him tithes, and it was running into thousands of dollars. Then you give offerings to support the church. The only problem was they caught him having a homosexual affair with his son-in-law. Of course, that shows you how fallacy something can be. Listen, if you see your brother in need, and you have this world's goods, and you shut your bowel of compassion against him, how could you even say you are a Christian? Amen. This I believe with all my heart. We are to love one another, we're to have compassion, we're to have kindness. But as far as putting up gold on cathedrals, if you want to contribute, that's up to you. But I don't believe it's required of us as Christians. But if I see Brother Brooks hungry, and I got plenty of money in my pocket, I said, well, brother, the welfare down there, they'll help you. And I'm going off, I don't worry about it. I got to pay my tithes to the church. No, I got to feed little books. Now, you might not agree with me on the issue when we get into question of tithes and things like that, but I do admit I have strong opinions. You must help one another. You must have a love one for the other. If you have a church building, you must support it. But you go to God and ask Him how much money He would have you to give. I am not going to try to arbitrarily say, now this is required of you. It's required of you that you obey God. And if you do, you'll find, if you love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself, all these things will just work in place. They'll all get taken care of. Now then, when a servant, if he come in by himself, he shall go out by himself, and if he's married, then his wife shall go out with him. We don't really get into these rules and regulations on the laws with our life, but there is a principle here. You are to do what's right. You are required in all circumstances to be responsible. You're required to be kind, even when you have the advantage. Now, to me, a mark of Christianity, we got one brother here who trades. He buys, he sells, he trades. Nothing wrong with it. But all things have their problems. See, he learns the job. He learns to evaluate products. He knows much more about it than the average person out here because he has became skilled at it. Now, as a Christian, when he deals with the other man, he has the responsibility of God. Even though the other man don't know what he's doing, he still has to treat him. Now, that's easier said than done. My dad made a living for a long time trading horses, knives, guns. My granddad done the same thing. His dad done the same thing. I flunked out. But when you become skilled at something, you can take advantage of the other person. He might even be more intelligent than you, but that does not mean he knows what he's doing in that issue. So, and this is all this is about. Treating your brother right. Under the Christian law. Now, as far as reading these issues, you know, if you sell a girl and she married, but in other words, in each issue here, you are required to do what's right. In many of the cases, they have the advantage. They have the control. What control did a slave girl have over her master? None. But there's limits. You knock her eye out, in some cases they can take your eye. So it makes a man careful what he does, because he could be held accountable for his action. And this was one thing in America, our law system is not necessarily just. We don't necessarily give an account. We answer to the court, which oftentimes is prejudiced. They're for something, against something. It's not necessarily what is right. If somebody was, take O.J. Simpson. I don't guess that's 3% of Americans believe he wasn't guilty. But he was a star. People almost idolized him. He had millions of dollars of money, and guess what? He went free. With God, it don't work that way. Regardless of who you are, what you are, man or woman, black, white, rich, poor, fat, skinny, this is one thing the law showed the people: sin is to be given account for. In Christ, it shows them the mercy. And when we go to the grace plan, see, all the law done was to teach these people about sin. But it did not possess the factor to forgive that sin. The blood of bulls and goats could not forgive sin. The only way you could have your sins truly forgiven required Calvary. If you pull Calvary out, I think the Old Testament collapses too. The only way. But the law taught us sin. And sin must be given account for. Grace plan told us the mercies of God while we have sinned. In other words, you go out here and commit murder, and without getting forgiveness from God from it, you're going to hell. The penalty of death is still there. It's just you've got a period of mercy, generally, whereby you can apply for forgiveness from God. Now, oftentimes I see people pay terrible prices. Sometimes somebody's committed murder. So all matters is going to hell. I believe that. But when they get forgiveness on an altar of prayer, in God's eyes, they are no longer a murderer. Paul got forgiveness, didn't he? He helped cause Christians to blaspheme. He stood there and gave his consent to them stoning Stephen to death. But yet he found forgiveness. Marriage and divorce. I was married 61 years and 9 months, which the Lord give us 50 more. If two people get married and both do what's right, they will stay together. But sometimes one or both of them decides to change courses. Even though you're guilty, if you get forgiveness, you're no longer guilty. Now, I know our Christian churches has a tendency to set certain sins aside, and that can't be fixed. But it's not so. If it is sin, and if they're forgiven, they're no longer guilty of that. See, the Lord perfects forever now that He's sanctified. When God saves you, your past becomes perfected. Now, I don't believe that's a past to free sin in the future. But everything that you've done in the past, when God forgives you, He forgives you all of it. Now, I know among some of the people, well, you know, I got saved, but I ain't been baptized in water, so I can't go to heaven yet. I don't believe that. When God saved me, He done a perfect job. Now, if I'd have done the job, no doubt I'd have missed some corners. I'd have left some corners kind of dirty somewhere along the line. But see, I didn't do it. God done it. He totally cleaned me up. He totally forgave me from all sin. He did not give me a free pass to future sin. For grace to abound, sin this much more abound. But will it cause grace to abound? Shall we sin? God forbid. That's what Paul says. We have no excuse to knowingly commit sin. I know we make mistakes, things we don't understand. I understand that. But when God has taught you, quit stealing candy bars out of the store, you meant it. All right, time's up.
Thank you, Brother Johnson. Let's take a 2-minute break.